I do not have the best of reasons for making this tape. I just don't have anything else to do. Thought I'd take a few minutes to explain what I think are some of the more important and less trivial issues, and how the trivial issues became paramount to pseudo investigators representing a group who were actually the authors of what they claimed to be investigating, as I can discuss also. This is 2022. Let's go back to 1984 when I was at the Falk Medical Library. These impresarios claimed there was an intercept of these letters from 1974. There wasn't. What there was a lateral pass. But before I get into that, they originated from Woods Hole, where John Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bassett's plane came down. Observation by Pravanik of Pittsburgh. Pravanik had been following me around. And Z magazine also comes from Woods Hole. It's a place in Massachusetts. And it's written for by Noam Chomsky. He talks about what aliens on high would say. They would laugh looking down at the horrible idiocy of the way people like Bodden are wasting everybody's time on weapon systems worth nothing. And apparently making their careers out of obliteration of the human race. And these aliens resemble Gail Burston's repeated comment, "I am laughing." It makes me wonder, Chomsky's never addressed this. These letters were super intelligent. She went to Bryn Mawr. Was Chomsky helping her? I think it's a reasonable question under the circumstances. But when you look at 1984, that's a pretty long time ago. And the intercept person was announcing her agency for the Krokag Register Coroner, who does stylized videos for people like Bolivia, Camila, the Olympic team for Russia behind the scenes. I've talked about the arrangements of the Ouspensky Circle. But she was an attorney for the Krokag Register Coroner, who was the true author and whose name appeared repeatedly in the form of "I am threatening you." Ono Fang Luming appears in the letters. Really scary stuff, you know. There's nowhere to turn with it. But the so-called intercept then worked with Will Brown, who was talking about AIDS in early 1981 and 82 before it happened. What would you think of a scheme to transform the human race by injecting the blood? And he was at school with Michael McGarvey, whose partner in the gutter snipe SWAT maker is named in the script in association with the nerve agent. Pittsburgh police moved very swiftly and with great lethality to confiscate the papers written by the gutter snipes in order to protect them and sell why I am laughing. This was going on with respect to me, the cerebral intimacy impinging on the persona's experience, as the gutter snipe leader Greg Carl puts it, back in the days of Greg Starsenik working with Amanda Harcourt. So you could see, if you put that together, run back through your switchboard, put it up on your whiteboard to figure out the dizzle of arrows pointing where which all, that they're lying through the teeth. They're lying. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're lying. The Beatles are liars. That's what they are. That's what they're doing. They're lying. Now, they refused to intervene to save lives. They refused proper warning. Instead, they created this brothel as a school of death and dying, ultimatum of death and dying. Jim Jones drank the Kool-Aid. up where Zell was on Mount Desert Island by a church with notorious ties to Guyana. Meanwhile, Haruki Murakami was making good and sure that people associate the leader of the Suspensky Circle, Robert Fripp of King Crimson, with Shin Rikyo called, who released the nerve agent on the Tokyo subway, which he describes and does, in fact, name Fripp in his book, The Underground. So that no one can deny, that's what to make sure no one can deny, that there was plenty of time to warn and try to protect and intervene and apprehend and stop before it led to COVID. Because after all, I mean, we're talking about the people who released AIDS in the context of advocacy for them by the Aum Shinrikyo Code. Oh, what does that matter, right? The aliens are laughing. I am laughing. Oh no, Fang looming. Other sort of indications of what they had in mind. So, and all of that is verifiable and perfectly clear from everything that I've read and demonstrated, discovered. I mean, if you're an honest person, a person, beautiful, honest person with, um, the intellectual deficiency that causes you to be very honest, Asperger's, you go through my blog, I can't believe this. I literally can't believe this. You go through the evidence in my blog, and many times I've told police I have been brutally tortured. Yes, I have been brutally tortured. Brutally tortured. They've used nerve agents on me like they did on Alexei Navalny. They sabotaged my love life. They uploaded a version without any consent from me whatsoever, so that they could play their foolish and stupid libels. They covered for the AIDS attack, and they sexually humiliated me. They poisoned me. They gave me diabetes and rectal dysfunction, and they have no intention of stopping. They forcibly extruded. That was their word, extrusion, which means to force out. After saying wear your inside out on their interrogation album, which constructed the persona, in Greg Carl's words, that they had in mind. Sean Schulman was working with Ming-Na Wen, and Ming-Na Wen was bringing in people like Penis Gabriel and Amanda Harcourt to construct the personas they constructed on So to humiliate. And the River Hatters, I mean, they've been murdering people left and right. So they constructed this persona and then extruded where they're inside out. They didn't give me read by my rights when they forced me into um, seizures, and they ripped this thing out of me. And it was involuntary. They're screaming through a neuroplasm that they have molested and manipulated psychologically. Howard Stern style. Get bark, speak, parrot, speak memory, impinge the neurotransmitter, extruded it. And then they said, oh, well, we don't like it. We were offended by it, when they were the ones who inputted it. And they demanded it. They demanded that they see what I had to say. They gave them no quarter. They said even the attempt to hide will be observation. And they were killing people. You attempted to hide. They said, well, so zap, we'll kill somebody. We know detected your attempt to hide, so zap, we'll kill somebody. And that's how they operate. And they're federally licensed, criminally insane. You know, who knows who all they were college. Obama certainly knew all about it. There was no question that Obama was fully advised. And he was like, the pecking order pussy bum. Yeah. He was the one who was saying, well, the Indian is working with the Israelis who are stealing from the museum, is honoring the black man. So they get the symbol of life to Putin. Putin, the symbol of life, for the honor of the African warrior, showing off sacred the ancestor symbols like the swastika. And this is literal. This all came from tumbling out of Temple University in Columbia and at Barack Obama voodoo. We'll stick you, and they put out this thing called Audition, which has one of their honor of the African warriors. Yeah, I mean, a Japanese woman, the Crockett Register Corona type, who are honorary the African warriors with an injection needle, and Zell came right out and talked about it. Admitted what he said and when and how. And Diamond Gullis had a namesake from the very same group of people at Tyler School for the Arts with Zell and McGarvey, who called me in to laugh on December 8th, 1980. You're going to be famous someday, which is what Gail Burstyn said in the letter. So diabolical Gail Burstyn had all of these people working with her. Diamond Gullis working with her. And the queers say, oh no, she's our holy guru. And we're going to rob banks. And they have these lookalikes coming in. Lookalikes, get it? Doubles. They had something with Tom Cruise. You couldn't tell him from his double for anything. And they call it double fantasy. They come marching into the banks, shooting people in a mile. And they say, we work at the banks and we're going to pick your pockets. And that's for the Green Party. And nobody's going to stop them. Who's going to stop them? The sheriff of Tacoma, Pierce County, is not going to stop them. There's no way. Biden will say, back off. Back off. So I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And the aliens up in Chomsky heaven are laughing their asses off. That's the way it goes. And this is what Pitt calls the nature of reality, back where the Fernhollow Bridge collapsed. The nature of reality. And you can stop a train with the nature of reality. Woo-hoo! Toot toot, nature of reality. And you pay what were they talking about the nature of reality about? When they held me hostage to the guy who was making covers with the Crohagra Goose of Corona and the flame over Africa. They were talking about the nature of reality because I said we should be trying to end hunger. There's a program of attempting to end hunger. We should be getting medical information online ready to distribute to African poor countries when they get modems. So conspicuous was my determination to get these ideas out that a CMU architect who joined the Peace Corps sent me a picture of an Aborigine with a modem on his lap. He said, I know you're going to love this, James. I was like asking questions. Can the Cray 6 supercomputer be programmed with information to get it disseminated? Because Dr. Robert Glue, who went to Africa, said all they have are waterlogged books on the back steps of the so-called medical library. I said, can we get up-to-date information out to these people in an expedited time frame when these things go up? Because it was obvious they were going to go up. It was before the internet. But it was, I was one of the people who wanted to keep the card catalogs because I used to like the sight of detectives working card catalogs. I used to work the card catalogs. That's how I knew that Burford was Gorsuch was into the deterioration of organic compounds as a study, fascist weirdness of some sort. And Rockefeller was crawling over me, telling me the people were like ants. And they had this girl, this Leslie, who was rubbing her vagina in my mouth. And then when she cuckolded me, they laughed at me because I was upset and said, "You're a rapist." But she was still a virgin after dating me for 2 years. Well, it gives you the right to say I'm a rapist. Well, the angels in Chomsky heaven are laughing. It's what gives them the right. That's the whole deal. The whole program is this genocide, pornography, licky chops thing that the NAACP have going. That's licky chop. He had the honorary of the black woman. What's honorary of the black woman? She was higher than me in the administrative level in the University of Pittsburgh. She wanted me to. She made a date with me. Took me home. What does that have to do with anybody? How is it my fault? I was just a student working at the newspaper, sort of a part-time, full-time clerk, maybe former full-time clerk. And she was setting this whole thing up for a worldwide show business gig involving the Croquet Register Corona, advocating for the token black man in the paradise of the U.S. presidency and the pussy bowl put in of the Crohag's emissary, Maduri Goto, was all about her virginity. They were blowing up the World Trade Center, the Oklahoma Federal, and it was all over her virginity. Everybody knew it. Everybody could see it. I didn't know who Donald Trump was at the time, but I would put it. CO2-63 U.S. District Court, and they named a whole bunch of people, Paul McCartney, a whole list of people. Marsha Peckman laughed at me. I mean, she crawled under her desk when COVID-19 happened, and then crawled out and laughed at me again. But the name that was missing was Trump. I mean, it would have made a lot more sense. I would have been a lot warier of Rose. I mean, when I saw Virginia, I was like, what's this? If I had thought Trump was entering into politics, it would have made a lot more sense. But at the time, I didn't understand that Robert Fripp was a toady of Trumpy tune. I mean, I was a little weirded out by the way he got up on one toe and yeah, like someone had pinched his imperial fanny when he talked about David Bowie. But I mean, I was a little weirded out because I thought the King Crimson were solid. That's why I liked them. My father was pretty solid. I thought maybe these guys are solid. Well, that disabused me of that. That's fine. I mean, whoever the Keystone Commies were that got me to hate King Crimson, that must be what Liverpool and Pittsburgh have in common, but because it was a stupid move, but it's permanent. I mean, just forget it. So they have stuff about Death Seed, and I've said this so many times in prep, but nobody reads my stuff. Uh, Paranoia is poison. McGarvey used to call it pigment and figment. Greg Carl says the dialectic is established at the outset. It's a fundamental forensics dialectic between poison and paranoia. They say it's paranoia and then they poison you in the mouth. You know, Now I want to get down to the nitty gritty with the University of Pittsburgh, please, because my father was the senior faculty member there of Distinguished Naval Service. So kindly lend me your ear a moment about this one. I worked for them, and Roz Katz, Leslie's mother, long after these people got in the letter that was used by Vince Irene and Peter Gabriel to set up the rape of my deaf advocate and the gunning down of Donnie Chen and the rape of Circe and her mother. Long after they'd gotten this letter, she understood the situation perfectly. She said there was a rift after Leslie slept with somebody, which was quite a choice of words. And she offered me a ride home. None of them were afraid of me. None of them. Leslie even came to see me after she got the letter. I mean, Brian Kopp was like, whoopee doo. We got a brain police operation here, but none. She would give me a ride home. Her father, Leslie's father, worked at the University of Pittsburgh. He could have. I was delivering books to the Western Psychiatric. He could have said, "Would you ask Jimmy to cooperate? We understand he's written to Peter Gabriel." Pause. Would you ask Jimmy to cooperate in psychological review of his feelings about Leslie? He's deaf. We care about him. I would have said, fine. I'll be happy to talk it out with somebody. There was a fact that I talked it out with people that made them so licky chops to get after me. Matt Marcus said, you're fucked up. Stop thinking you're fucked up. Miss out on other people. Western Psychiatric presumably would not have said that in those words, but they were into it. They were like, he's fucked up. He's taking us fucked upness out on other people. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to set up a genocide gas chamber pornographic genocide system and show that he's on suicide pilot of sexual self-destruct, the conscience of the West, man, and take over Wells Fargo. It comes straight from the mind of Martin Andelman. He's like this all the time. And Oliver Stone's like this all the time. And the angels of Chomsky up in, Chomsky heaven are laughing. They didn't do that. Suffice it to say, they didn't do that. Nobody said, we're worried about you. We're concerned about you. I mean, my father died. Shut up, Dodd. They scribble on his obituary. Don't know who. Don, oh no, who, grain, who, H-U-E, right? Okay. Well, and said something about injecting parochial values and German Green Party. He was well known that he never forgave Germany. I have a half Jewish brother from a subsequent marriage, but that's, they called him Adam, which means firstborn. They were discounting me. The Jewish woman was like, get him out of here. But the point is that even with the sadness, my father said that must have hurt when he hit the story lesson. Even with they say, oh, you're not healing correctly, even with Penis Gabriel stuff. I continued to work there for like a year. They could have at any time I was delivering books to Western Psychiatric. They could have at any time said, we're so concerned that we're making it a condition of employment here, Jimmy, that you meet with the psychiatric team. But everybody knew that she had dated me and was very lascivious with me and was never touched her, was not. I had many opportunities to force myself on, and I absolutely refused to do it. Absolutely refused. That was the issue. Ex slur said you blew it. They were impinging all sorts of noise, and this was bothering me. And so they could have said, it's bothering you too much, you're not healing correctly. Would you come and talk to us? They wouldn't have had to make it a condition of employment. They probably had the power to make it a condition of employment. They wouldn't have had to. I would say I'd be happy to. I know it's bothered me. I used to talk to Kathy Hayford about it. I mean, when we were in Montana. Yeah, so it's silliness to say that they have normal administrative things that they could have done, but they had Jaime Carbonell and John Schulman on special walkie-talkies making secret tapes, prompting me. Pete Shell comes over to me and goes, "You've been porking anybody lately, Jim? You've been porking anybody lately, Jimmy?" That's what he said to me, right? And they get the famous, "Yeah, sure, Pete. Tied her up and poured through with the carrot," which was one of the things that the Mancine, obscene, climax one kidnapping squad who tortured me as a child talked about doing with a girl who I knew them to be friendly with afterwards, saying we were just having fun. The sort of thing they do. Climax one, Mancine would say things like, "Oh, they use make peanut butter sandwiches with their twats and stuff." He was inputting this stuff into a psyche of somebody who they were beating the brains and not allowing to leave, giving terrible hallucinogens. Then they had this set up on wiretap at Jaime Carbonell's for Clinton, right? So they didn't want a legitimate psychiatrist saying, what was the situation before you dated Leslie? Can you talk about that? Are you afraid to talk about that? Do you want some medicine to make it easier for you to talk about that? I was crying because they had shown me terrible pictures of a man with his head cut open by a machete. And they said they were going to take a shit in the hole and that they were tying up girls for fun and porking them with carrots. Oh, who were these people? Oh, well, don't tell us. Don't tell us. Because we know that they were the good guys and it's all your fault, Jimmy. It's all your fault, Jimmy. We're going to tell Reagan. Reagan's going to fix your wagon, Jimmy. That's why they didn't put me through psychiatry, because they didn't want to behave responsibly. They had inputted the Bostons. It's all your fault. You devil worshiper. You Russian spy. This was Peter Gabriel and Ringo Starr from the very beginning, working with Attica State Prison in Pittsburgh on an elementary school student who weighed 98 pounds, who they were calling a sissy when they attacked in blindside. And Dr. Proctor calls it a provincial norm. I can't get any help to this day.